Hello all and welcome back. I hope you're doing really well. Thank you yet again for the love and support on the previous video, which was on Wednesday. Tons of stuff for me to cover again in today's video, so make sure you watch it from start to finish. Lots of different news about the crypto space in general, as well as more information about the Hedera ecosystem. Things are really starting to ramp up now as we head into May. There's different stuff lined up and scheduled throughout May, and it's going to be an exciting month for us in general. That being said, let's take a look at the crypto bubbles and do a bit of a macro overview as we normally do. On the daily, majority of the projects again are down. As I've said time and time again, this tends to be a very good buying opportunity into these markets. Majority of the people that make the most of their money in the crypto space are buying when fear is ripe rather than buying when things are greedy. As I've said previously, FOMO is not a good thing. Once you see these big spikes across the board on these projects, you've probably missed that boat, that cycle for those prices. It's probably time to take some of those profits off the table. That being said, Hedera itself is down quite massively over the last period. 3% down on the day, 13% on the week, 34% on the month, and we're around that 17-cent range. Fantastic buying opportunity, particularly because I've said to you guys before, this effectively gives you earlier access to some of the other projects in the space. For example, HSUITE launching on the 2nd of May. I think it was 0.0025 Hbar per token. So obviously 1,000 Hbar getting you 400,000 HSUITE tokens. Or if the Hedera price is dropping and you guys are picking these tokens up at 17 cents, then you're effectively getting HSUITE at a much cheaper rate. And the same was going for things like SaucerSwap, for example. The exchange rates are ever more favorable. And not only that as well, with staking tools like Hedera, buying Hedera tokens at a much cheaper rate. So you're getting better rates anyway over the long term, plus the price appreciation that we're all expecting from Hedera. So no change from me. I'm still continuing to fill my Hbar bags. They're obviously getting fairly big right now. I think we'll see probably some momentum come back into the market now that we're at the end of the month. May, beginning of a new month, we'll see that volume pick back up for a lot of these projects, particularly as there's fresh equity and liquidity circulating the markets after people get paid, etc. So good times are on the horizon. That being said as well, I want to draw attention to the Ethereum and Bitcoin chart. So this is the effective exchange rate between Ethereum and Bitcoin. And what I just wanted to point out is that things are still looking fairly bullish for Ethereum, and obviously Ethereum being one of the lead for altcoins, or the lead for altcoins, I should say. We could see Ethereum's sort of all-time highs against Bitcoin always when we've seen euphoric periods in the markets. So obviously December at the end of last year, the Ethereum to Bitcoin exchange rate was one of the highest points it's been. And the same goes back. If I go on the 5-year chart, we can see these previous spikes back when we had the all-time highs in, or the highs in 2017. And there was another spike in January of 2018. As well as the other runs we've seen in May of 21 and December. We can see that we're fairly strong against Bitcoin right now, and that's a good signal in general across the board for altcoins. So some nice information there. Moving on to Hedera and the ecosystem in general, some really bullish news is that Hedera has obviously just hit that 400 million Hbar staked. This means we are now transitioning into phase 3. They actually ended up doing it a day early. So my prediction was the 30th of April, and this was kind of hit 28th, 29th of April. So a day or maybe two earlier than my predictions. And I think that was because somewhere around 15 million Hbar got added to the pool within a span of about 6 hours. So there was a very large increase in the total value locked, which I think was slightly unexpected. That was probably people FOMOing in to get the best exchange rates for Hbar to HBARX as they possibly could. That being said, this is great to see, and there's been some great appreciation over the time, 4 weeks or so since the platform has launched. That total value locked figure is just continuing to increase, which is brilliant to see. What we can see here at the top of the screen is the emission rate is roughly 670,000 Hbar per day. Yesterday, I think when this actually got hit, I think it was closer to 700,000. Obviously now the emission rate is going to decrease over time as they effectively burn through the 50 million that they were allocated by the Hbar Foundation. We can also see there the APY is roughly 60%. Of course, yesterday that was slightly higher as well. My predictions were around 65% for this phase and somewhere between 700 to 800,000 per epoch. So sort of on the money there. Not too bad for me forecasting 4 weeks out. I'll hold my hands up and say, obviously, I didn't get it completely right. Not that I was expecting to, but hopefully it gave you guys some kind of indication and I wasn't too far out, so it could help you inform your opinion of what you were doing. That being said, it's still a good opportunity to continually allocate to Status Platform to stake. Obviously, you're getting 60% APY, APY being per year. I think there's a bit of misunderstanding about that. That is the yearly basis, so effectively you lock up for 12-month period. Also, some more questions, which I have covered in previous videos, people asking about the uncertainty of unstaking. Of course, you can see at the bottom of the screen there, it's expected around July 2022. That being said, once the DEXs go live, we've got Tangent Finance, SaucerSwap, Hbar Suite, 3 DEXs there. Once they go live, HBARX will be one of the first tokens they support. SaucerSwap, for example, have already stated that they will be supporting HBARX from day dot. That then means you can trade your HBARX, because it is a liquid token, back to HBAR without actually having to use the unstake feature on Stader. So what that effectively means is that if we see DEXs launch in May or even June, you will be able to unstake ahead of July. Hopefully that clears some of that up for you guys. Moving on, I just wanted to run through this fantastic thread written by Parabolic HBAR over on Twitter, and it's a short thread on why Hedera will win the Layer 1/Layer 0 Web 3.0 crypto race. And a fantastic sort of infographic style or meme picture here of Bitcoin and Ethereum sitting at a table, and then the elephant in the room obviously being Hedera. So the first point is obviously being math. The hashgraph algorithm is COQ approved by Kajin Mellon as an asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance, or ABFT, which is the highest security mathematically possible for a DLT, obviously being one of the first, or the first as well, to achieve ABFT. Second point being the math provides bank grade security. It's also leaderless and DDoS resilient, ACID compliant, and TSL 1.2 standard for US top secret information. So obviously this means that it could be adopted by not only the biggest of banks and organizations, but governments as well for the security that it provides. Point 3 being governance, so modeled after Visa and governed by different socio-political and eco-climates, as well as sectors on 6 different continents. These governing council members have a ton of capital and reputation to lose if they were to act maliciously. No leaders, miners, or block producers control the network. And this is obviously really great. Naturally, a lot of this as well comes from its being a proof of stake mechanism. You only have to look at Ethereum to know why proof of work is horrific. Obviously, the same goes for Bitcoin. You don't want gas fees of around $30 on average to send a transaction of $1 to someone. Point number 4 being obviously the math and governance combined. Nail in the coffin for all other public layer 0s or 1 blockchains is that they seek large enterprise adoption, because they will not tolerate any security that makes their money vulnerable. And this is what I've said to you guys before. These multi-billion or if not trillion-dollar organizations, for example Google, that are on the governing council, would not use a piece of technology which would make their capital vulnerable, particularly if the network wasn't secure, scalable, or could deliver on what they're asking for. Don't forget, these organizations effectively answer to shareholders if they are publicly traded companies, which of course Google is, and most of the governing council, if not all of the governing council, are publicly traded, and they have a board to answer to, which is answering to the shareholders. So if they invest in a technology which is a rug pull or is malicious, cannot protect them, the shareholders will effectively dump their stock and they're going to lose a ton of money. And that's not going to happen. There's big teams at these companies and enterprises that are sort of mitigating risk on a large scale, as well as doing massive amounts of due diligence before they invest in a platform. So that should give you some information as to why Hedera is better than the rest and why you've got these companies on board. They've done their due diligence and they understand what Hashgraph can provide and its benefits as well as its shortcomings. The final reason being math and governance will reign supreme. It may take some time, but as they say in crypto, programmed. More information and references about the claims are at the bottom of this thread. I'll try and leave this link in the description for you guys to read at your own leisure. Lots of information in here as well. Fantastic to see from Parabolic Hbar. Flicking over, obviously DOVU is something I've covered on the channel many times before. Obviously Matt Smith, he's being one of the heads of development over there at the team, technical hype officer, does lots of other stuff as well. Great tweet here basically saying, if you think that DOVU official staking is all about maximizing APY through multipliers, you have a smooth brain and you are not going to make it. The HTS DOVU snapshot last week was a precursor of our shenanigans. Now, of course, I did a video on this, so I suggest you go and check that out. Obviously, that snapshot cutoff point has now eclipsed, pardon the pun. That being said, this is clearly something that DOVU is looking to do again in the future. Take snapshots, airdrop tokens, massive sort of different multipliers and incentives for people to purchase DOVU tokens, and they will seriously drive the volume via what they are doing. They are a seriously underrated gem within the Hedera ecosystem. And as soon as the DEXs go live and native HTS tokens can be picked up by general people, rather than having to go through the crazy shenanigans of moving, things through the Hashport service, for example, because it's not easy, and avoiding those Ethereum gas fees, we're probably going to see a big explosion in the DOVU token price. Of course, not financial advice. Make sure you're doing your own research on that. Plenty of different videos on the channel talking about DOVU in the past and why I think it is a fantastic opportunity for the likes of us. That being said, talking about the DEXs, this was a tweet from SaucerSwap Labs 2 days ago now, which I obviously retweeted. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, as I do retweet lots of this information before I cover it anyway. So if you guys want to have the drop on it as soon as the stuff goes live, that is the place to get it. That being said, their factory and pair contracts with the HTS integration have passed all unit tests, and their next stop is auditing, which is fantastic to see. And like I said, they mentioned sometime last week that they were looking to do an announcement in the very near term. I was hoping that it was going to be this week. However, we haven't seen any information from them. So fingers crossed we get some more information or announcements from SaucerSwap next week. And you can bet that'll be featured in one of my videos as soon as they drop some information, as I am incredibly bullish on SaucerSwap and all the other DEXs in this ecosystem. They have a fantastic team and they are delivering and over-delivering on all the promises that they have so far put forward to the community. That being said, there is still time for you guys to pick up some of the NFTs ahead of the airdrops. If you pick them up on Zoos.market, of course, the actual NFTs from the SaucerSwap website have completely sold out, but you can buy them from Zoos.marketplace, or you could always try and find someone on the Discord server that has multiple sets that is willing to sell you a set. However, beware that majority of the NFT collections now are selling at a massive premium over what they were available at. Moving on to some general crypto news across the board, some really bullish stuff here from Goldman Sachs. So they're talking about tokenizing real world assets in a report recently. So the US banking giant Goldman Sachs is increasing interest in the cryptocurrency space, and it's not been unnoticed by many. The company, previously known to criticize the nascent industry, has had a change of heart, clearly because they understand not only is it the future, but there's money to be made, evidenced by its recent involvement in the space. As per the latest reports, the company is looking at expanding its foray into NFTs and exploring the tokenization of real-world assets. At the Financial Times Crypto and Digital Assets Summit hosted on Wednesday, Matthew McDermott, head of digital assets at Goldman Sachs, reportedly said, "We are actually exploring NFTs in the context of financial instruments, and actually their power is quite understated. We work on a number of things." So what they're effectively trying to do is obviously digitalize these real world assets. And obviously a big one that some of you may be thinking about immediately is things like housing. You could effectively tokenize the deeds to a house as an NFT, and then you've got a frictionless marketplace in which you could buy and sell property, real estate, and other things along those lines. Not to mention as well, the commodities industry could be tokenized via non-fungible assets. That being said as well, as of yesterday, I got this pop-up notification just before I went to bed but seriously bullish again, as Goldman Sachs has just made its first Bitcoin-backed loan. So the global investment bank has allowed a borrower to use the cryptocurrency as collateral for a cash loan. Obviously, this is not a new thing in terms of collateralizing assets for loans. Many of the world's wealthiest people on the planet do this anyway. They'll have a massive portion of their wealth. Let's take Elon Musk, for example, which is wrapped up in Tesla shares. Every time he makes a purchase or needs capital, he will effectively take a loan out against his shares without the need of him having to sell them and then obviously pay back on those terms. And now we are seeing this transition into Bitcoin. Now, why is this important and why is this bullish? The key takeaways being is that if you collateralize an asset against another asset, for example, a cash loan against Bitcoin, the bank that is collateralizing that must understand the risks of the asset they're collateralizing. E.g., if it was housing or property, you know that that is quite stable and steady and it doesn't have a lot of volatility to it. If JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, for example, are moving into this world of collateralizing Bitcoin, they clearly understand that the long-term upside potential of Bitcoin far outweighs the volatility risk to the downside, because otherwise they wouldn't collateralize $1 million loans against Bitcoin. Again, this is incredibly bullish in general to show that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are seriously the future, and there are many, many players moving into the space. If we see more investment banks and traditional finance providers move into the crypto space, you're going to see a massive explosion in adoption because it becomes more viable. Something else as well I wanted to talk about, obviously you heard me mentioning property there quite a lot, and there's another article here over on Bloomberg talking about crypto-backed mortgages are as crazy as they sound. It's only risk piled on top of risk at a particularly risky time. However, these products are being launched and clearly the underlying banks understand the risk as well as the reward into the future, and they are making the decision to do it. Therefore, they clearly see an upside in the crypto markets. Now, I've said this many times, the phrase, the writing is on the wall, do what they do, not what they say type of thing. And they are doing this. They are moving into the crypto space. They are offering mortgages against Bitcoin. They are collateralizing assets against Bitcoin. They want Bitcoins and they know the potential of these cryptocurrency projects. I wanted to round the video up actually talking about Facebook or Meta and this Web 3.0 narrative. Now, I think I've covered this in a video a long time ago when Facebook rebranded themselves to Meta, and obviously their Meta Reality Labs, which was formerly Oculus, has just posted a $3 billion loss in Q1, and Zuck has obviously said he recognizes it's expensive, but remains incredibly optimistic about the future profitability of the metaverse. Now, why I've left this in this video is, again, just another signal to show you guys that there is serious money in this space, and the adoption is effectively growing, and these big businesses are in it to make a profit. So if they're comfortable burning $3 billion a quarter in order to develop in the metaverse, they clearly know a payoff is coming in the near term. That's kind of what I wanted to say and round the video up on. Anyway, hopefully there's some good information in this video for you guys. Obviously still incredibly bullish on the crypto space in general. Make sure you leave a like, drop a comment if you've got something to say. Love interacting with you guys. Make sure you subscribe for future videos. Tons more content on its way, as always. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.